All right, friends, welcome back. I feel like it's been a long time since I've done a video because it kind of has for me. I've been sick and just trying to get over that. So I feel weak, but just got to get it done. So I will be doing another bench strength training day here. And then Charlie Kirk was assassinated 2 days ago. So I kind of want to share my thoughts on that and just kind of what I think are a big problem in politics in general that nobody really ever talks about, or not really anything that I hear talk about. So stick around for those. First thing I'm doing here is close grip bench, 8 rep max, 1 set. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I think most reasonable people are going to view what happened to Charlie as a tragedy, and I think that's how it should be viewed. Now, I wasn't a fan of his. Some things he said I agreed with, some things he said I disagree with. So I just kind of seen some clips of him here and there. It's not like I was super familiar with him. Outside of the obvious sad part, which is what happened to him, and then for me personally especially is his wife and kids being left behind and the pain that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives. That's obviously the saddest part of all this. But something else related to this that is extremely tragic to me is how many people are cheering what happened and are happy about it. I find that really sad and really disturbing. I still view humans when situations like this happen, and I mean situations like this happen all the time, whether it's someone being stabbed to death or shot to death in your city or your town, or a public speaker getting assassinated like this. But it's such a reminder to me that we're all still just a bunch of animals, and in a lot of ways that just kind of astounds me. It's so weird that basic human decency is something that's still so hard for people to accept in society these days, or for people to adjust to. And I kind of always look at it like there's always going to be those outliers out there that are going to kill, they're going to do some terrible things. A lot of those people really just are different. Not that that's a justification for it by any means, but there are some people that just don't think or feel the same way as other people, and that's just an unfortunate side effect of living. But when you have the people that are decent, normal, contributing members of society that are still cheering on something like this, that, for whatever reason, in this tragedy, that's really hitting me. Like, Charlie, I've never seen anything about him trying to fight anyone or enact violence or encourage violence. He was just a guy that was very Christian and very traditional, and a lot of people don't agree with that. So for people to be so happy about someone being killed and a family losing a husband and father just because they don't agree with what he said is just astounding to me. There's a lot of people out there that I don't agree with, and I don't strongly disagree with about things. And personally, I don't want to see anything bad happen to them. If they're doing bad things, then we would hope that the criminal system or judicial system will punish them accordingly if they are found out to be doing crimes or anything vicious or evil. But that wasn't the case with Charlie. Nobody should ever be cheering on an assassination like this, ever. Okay, next I'm supposed to be doing 5 sets of 5 to 6 reps with this 8 rep max. I am super short on time today, so I'm probably only going to do 3 sets of this, because this bench workout is supposed to take probably an hour and a half. You're supposed to do a lot of sets and a lot of reps of 5 different things, I think. So just got to cut it a little short today. So this topic kind of ties into overall, why I've never really been able to get into politics seriously. Earlier in my life, I used to feel a little guilty about that because, everybody says you need to take it seriously and you should get out and vote. And, I do those things. But I don't get fanatical about it. I don't ever pay attention to the news unless it's just something that happens to come to my attention, like the Charlie situation, or if someone just tells me about it. But after thinking about it for quite a few years, I feel like politics, in a way, and I'm not going to be able to describe this perfectly. It's still something I'm working with and trying to figure out how to describe well. But politics feels like a Band-Aid to me. And the reason I say that is because it doesn't ever fix problems at the core. We can try and have welfare programs, and we can try and have aid, and we can try and discipline people if they're doing things poorly, but it's all just surface things that aren't really going to take humanity to the next step in an evolutionary way of thinking, is how I see it personally. Yeah, take welfare, for example. I think, it's a good program for people that actually need it. But there's a lot of people that just take advantage of it that don't need it. They just don't contribute. They don't want to go out there and take care of themselves. They just want to be taken care of. So it's good to have for those people that actually need it, but it really just should be a stepping stone to help people get back up on their feet if they've had some tragedy or some unfortunate situation happen to them. It should just be something temporary for someone to be able to either get back on their feet or establish themselves. So to me, the problem with that when people are taking advantage of it is, they're greedy or they're lazy or they just haven't been able to find a meaning in life or find purpose. And so to me, it would be to address the root cause of people that are taking advantage of that. And that's really tough to do. It's different for each individual, and I don't even know if we have the manpower to be able to do anything like that, let alone the capability. I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job of explaining this, so I hope you're getting my point. But it's like, if welfare is the Band-Aid for something that requires surgery, then you're never really going to stop the bleeding. You're just going to keep it contained as best as possible and then move on to the next thing. And that's just the way that I see politics. It's never going to fix anything because the problem is with individuals. It's with the criminal system is for the people that are out there willing to murder and kill people. And in an ideal world, we would not have people like that. We wouldn't have people that want to commit genocide against other people or even just want to hurt anyone else. As someone that's been competitive in either sports or video games or something my whole life, it's always bothered me how vicious people can get in those situations. And I think that kind of ties into just the lack of empathy and the lack of care that people have for one another. And obviously that's a super, super minor scaled down example compared to some other things that I'm addressing here. But it does all tie in. If we could all just have more empathy and understanding and patience and open communication with one another, and we could apply that to all individuals, that would fix a lot more problems than anything politics could ever do for us. And as despicable as it is to me that people are cheering for what happened to Charlie, I do understand it in a sense, because these are people that think Charlie is an evil person and that, maybe he's some covert operative for Trump or just for the far right that is trying to corrupt the minds. And a lot of people think that's evil. And I can understand why people think that way. There's a lot of fear in the world. And I think fear is an underlying current for why people are so happy about why Charlie was assassinated, or about Charlie being assassinated. And I think that's sad. There are reasons to be afraid out there, unfortunately. I personally try to never make fear-based decisions. If I feel like I'm trying to do something out of fear, that's when I take a step back, and if I can, and try and reevaluate and see why the fear is there and if it's something that I should acknowledge or not. And in today's society, it's very, very rare that it is actually something that you should acknowledge. Fear is for if you're getting attacked or, if you need to run from something that's trying to kill you. It's not necessarily for someone that's just stating their views. And I know there's all sorts of arguments throughout human history where it's like, yeah, it just starts with the people that are charismatic and can talk well. You know, they motivate the masses, and then the masses do bad things under orders of the people that are able to get them to do it. So if you're one of those people out there that feels like that's something that Charlie was doing, I can understand why you were afraid. But again, until someone is doing something that is actually evidence of trying to hurt other people or trying to get other people to hurt other people, which again, I've never seen anything about Charlie doing that. You know, we just can't go around killing. We can't do that. It's just, you know, there's a lack of understanding there. And going back to fear, I think that fear closes the mind and doesn't allow people to see what Charlie is actually saying in his messages. And again, I wasn't a fan of Charlie. I didn't dislike him either. He was just kind of a guy that was out there doing his thing, and yeah, I don't care if that's what he wanted to do. I respect his courage. I respect his willingness to stake his life on his beliefs. I think a lot of people don't think that these public speakers are doing that, and that, you know, everybody unfortunately gets death threats if you're popular enough in today's world. But, you know, these guys are actually out there putting their lives on the line, and that's evidence of that after he was killed. And I have a lot of respect for people on both sides that are willing to do that. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would want to kill AOC or Hillary or the Young Turks or, you know, anyone on the left side of things too. But again, don't do it. If you're one of those people that are thinking of doing that, just don't do it. You know, people have opinions, people have views. I do genuinely think that people are doing the best that they can. And unless something comes forward or there's a criminal investigation that allows them to be prosecuted and tried as criminals, you know, that's different. And unfortunately, that's just the best system that we have right now, because we're not mind readers. We can't see the future. You know, we're just humans that are trying to make this life have as little amount of suffering as we can, which is a hard thing to do. Three, 4, 5. Now, don't get me wrong, the band-aids in politics are important. You know, we should always be striving to do better, and I do think a lot of politics is corrupt. A lot of it doesn't really have the good of the people in mind when making policies or trying to do different things. But, you know, it's kind of the best thing that we've come up with so far as humans, and I'm not smart enough to come up with anything better yet. So it's good to help people, even if there are people out there that are going to take advantage of that. It's good to protect people, and unfortunately sometimes that means innocent people get punishments that they don't deserve. But we got to do something. You know, we got to try and progress. That's what we do as humans. That's what gives me and us purpose, is the feeling of working towards something better. I was supposed to do 6 total reps of those close grip bench press, but I'm super short on time. I got to wrap this up. Moving on to curls of my choice. I was supposed to do a 30 rep max here, as many reps as possible, and I'm supposed to do 4 sets of each of these next 3 moves, but I'm only going to do 1 set, again, because I'm short on time. Alright, next thing here is DB Tri rolls. Again, it's a 30 rep max, as many reps as possible here. And last thing I will be doing here is the DB flies, 30 rep max. Alright, that's going to be it. I unfortunately probably only did a third of what I'm supposed to do in this workout. So a good chance I'll come back and do this one again, but after being sick, it's nice just to get back in here and do a video. And I always, when I'm sick, well, not always, but most of the time when I get sick, it feels like I have much muscle atrophy. and I might. So I've been feeling sick for a week and a half or two now. Feels weak getting back in, but hey, that's all right. We're thinking about the long term here. If short term it's not as good, we'll make up for it. I hope a takeaway from this is maybe you'll try and have some more empathy in your life. It is something that I'm always working on. You know, I think you can even have empathy with someone like Charlie's killer. And it's easy for me to say that because I'm so far removed from the situation. If someone were to shoot and kill my wife, it'd be very hard for me to have empathy for that guy. But I don't know what's going on in that guy's life. I don't know if he's suffered any type of abuse. Clearly there's something wrong enough with him where he felt justified in taking someone's life. And, you know, you can get into the conspiracy side of things where maybe you think that Charlie was taken out by the left. I don't know. People think that, and you know, sometimes those people are right. Who knows? But I think if we ever found a way, maybe Elon Musk will put brains in everyone's chip someday, and that'll just help us have a little bit more empathy. And if that's the case, and assuming we're not all controlled by the government or by AI or whatever, then that probably would make humanity a better place, just to have more empathy. But until then, if it ever happens, just try and have a little bit more empathy yourself. I know I'm going to try and do that. It would make the world a better place. But thanks for watching. See you.